With the Butt Kicker Gamer 2, what you see and what you hear is what you feel. Butt Kicker. The future is feeling.
Daytona season at the start of 2025, and with the iRacing 24 Hours of Daytona coming up this weekend, what better way to kick off the week than with 1 hour of PRL, LMP3, GT4 challenge action around this hallowed venue. Welcome in everybody on RaceSpotTV to what should hopefully be a fantastic evening of racing. Delighted to have your company, myself, Dareth Thacker, in the commentary box alongside Ron Morns. We've got Hugo Lois up in the broadcast booth giving us a fantastic show this evening. Ron, welcome in. Second race of the season. I think the drivers are going to start to get a little bit sick of Daytona by the end of the week, but for now, still a little bit fresh in the minds, and it should be quite an exciting race with some multi-class action to kick off the week.
Yeah, gotta be a fantastic way to kick off this second week of the year here on January 13th, but a brilliant racetrack here at Daytona. As much as you said that some of these racers may get sick and tired of this place, I love this track. It is a wonderful ride. I mean, it certainly makes sense that they have a 24-hour race around here, but I feel like I could drive around this track forever. It just has everything that you want from a racetrack. Heavy braking zones, good overtaking opportunities, some iconic corners as well, and it just makes up one of the fantastic slate of racetracks we have come up all throughout this season.
Yeah, I think for all of the drivers, if you kind of split up the amount of Daytona races throughout the year that we get, I think they could manage it. But it's all crammed in at the end of, or middle of January, isn't it? So drivers are going to get more than used to it by the end of the week. Mugello next week, Barcelona the week after. Really is an exciting looking calendar. Long Beach and Mosport as well. I'm also looking towards the Nürburgring towards the end of the season to see where we may see some big moments in the championship. It really is a fantastically crafted calendar, isn't it?
Oh, it is absolutely brilliant. I think it ends with possibly the best race of them all, Road America. I may be a little bit biased as the American on these broadcasts, but to bring this season to a close at a racetrack like that, so many good overtaking opportunities, a lot of history baked into the National Park of Speed, as they call it. A brilliant way to bring the season to a close. But I like how we're already talking about the end of the season, despite the fact the season is just barely underway.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much to look forward to, isn't there? It's why we love this series. But after one round of racing, we've got enough provisional standings from the opening week. And this is effectively the race results that we saw 1 week ago at the Glen. Adam Brockway was your winner in the LMP3. Seben Onofre just missing out on his first PRL win, with Mobin Khan rounding out the podium. Started on pole, finished in P3 just as he did in Season 4 of 2024. Carlo James and Eric Leroy were 4th and 5th, with Kwok Nyin and Victor Couto in 6th and 7th. JP Alfonso, Jacob Van Spanje and David Stevenson were the top 10. That meant that in the team standings, Ignite took the championship lead ahead of Murat and Sem Squad Oceana Coffee, ahead of the Murat and Sem Squad Ginger Livery. So those two teams going along nicely in 2nd and 3rd. Satellite Racing, Echelon Simsport and Solpec Precision Racing were 4th, 5th and 6th, with Impact Simsport, the other team, picking up any points last week. Hydro Race, Judas Racing and Sart XMC are yet to get off the mark. Over in the GT4s, however, an interesting story. Garrett Mains winning the race. Not a name we've really been used to seeing at the top of the GT4s of late. We've been used to seeing Aaron Myers and Aidan Young battling it out for the win, but they had to settle for second and third. We'll see what they can do to try and get themselves towards the top step of the championship. Arnaud Jeunesse with a great result to get P4 last week ahead of Skylar Davis. Top 5 for him to kick off the year. Christian Menzies, Smrecker, I apologise, and Ethan Williams rounding out our top 8. Matthew Wykov and Justin Bragan inside the top 10. Over in the teams, it's Unit X Valhalla who lead the way, but only by 2 points, with Satellite Racing just in behind. The Wrong Stuff in the middle of the pack racing, a third and fourth middle of the pack, definitely towards the sharp end as they kick off their season, with Passion Sim Esports chasing the Delta and WSR Esports Butt Kicker, the 7 teams that managed to surpass 50 points in that opening round. Hungry Hamsters, SAT XMC, GT4 and Echelon Simsport rounding out our top 10. Let's see if they can get into the top 5 by this evening. But of course, before we get going into too much of the racing action, we've got to thank our sponsors who make these broadcasts possible 5 nights a week on RaceSpotTV from the PRL, starting with Logitech. Logitech G wheels and pedals are equipped with true force feedback to help you feel the road and own the race. Use code PRECISION5 at checkout on logitechg.com for 5% off of your purchase. Advanced Sim Racing, owned and operated by passionate sim racers. Advanced Sim Racing designs and builds the sturdiest and most durable aluminium profile racing simulation cockpits available in the market today. All PRL members also get a 5% discount on ASR products using the Precision5 coupon code. Racebox offers mid and high-end button boxes for sim racing enthusiasts, from the casual gamer up to the most meticulous sim racing driver. Competitively priced and carefully handcrafted, our button boxes are an enjoyable addition to any sim racing setup. Visit raceboxsimracing.com and get a 5% discount using the Precision5 coupon code. Butt Kicker products add incredible immersion and realism to every single game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself into the driver's seat with Butt Kicker. Moradness is a performance lifestyle brand motivated by motorsport and founded by professional race car driver Daniel Morad. Mr. Hedge Sim Racing Photography. Capture your finest, proudest, or simply worst moments from your hobby in up to 8K resolution. It is, of course, a great addition to any sim room. And Advanced Motorsports. Get ready to learn to be fast with Advanced Motorsports. Follow them on all of their socials to become better driver. And we thank all of our sponsors as we enter Daytona week here in the PRL for making these broadcasts possible. We thank everybody as well at home for watching along. Welcome in to your Monday night dose of PRL action. It's great to see you guys talking in the chat. We always have a great audience, particularly on a Monday night, but of course every single night in the PRL. Ron, qualifying well underway now. Time's about to be set by a lot of these drivers, and Daytona's a circuit where you can push the limits, and if you push them too hard, you can get bitten quite hard.
Oh, yeah, and of all the opportunities to get bit, we just saw one of them a couple of moments ago coming out of the bus stop chicane, or I guess it's a Le Mans chicane nowadays. Either way, that backstretch chicane, if you guys slow down heading through there, that is going to be a kick in the shins if ever you felt one for these racers. I have seen plenty of race in my time covering iRacing events be decided because of a slowdown coming out of that section. I have a feeling this race may be no different, but around other points of the track, like Eric Leroy just proved in the run-up into turn number 1, you can take a bit more liberty with the track limits. iRacers and real-life racers, never a fan of track limits, but these racers having to form a cooperative bond to try and get the best times that they possibly can. And as it stands at the moment in the LMP3s, Adam Brockway off the back of that win last week at Watkins Glen, holding on to the provisional pole as it stands at the moment, but just barely any lap times on the board.
Yeah, not many drivers setting a lap time just yet. We've had about 11 in the LMP3s, but you can see just there on the left-hand side, Mobin Khan, 7.5 seconds down. That's not going to be a representative lap time from last week's pole sitter. Still 5 minutes left in the session, though, for drivers to get their times on the board, but Adam Brockway will be delighted to see himself at the top of the tree for the time being, of course. It's a great place to start pole position, particularly at a track like Daytona, where at the start of the lap is really the meat of the lap, the infield section. If you can try and get away there, it's going to really benefit you around the NASCAR 1, NASCAR 2, through the bus stop, and then through 3 and 4.
Yeah, that's the thing when it comes to really all Roval races for that matter. I'm trying to go through my mind and think if there's any Roval where you don't start off by immediately going into the infield and having a whole lot of twists and turns that could break the field up quite a lot, and could also see some incidents break out, especially at the beginning of this race that we have coming up. I think the only one that bucks that trend would probably be the Texas Motor Speedway Roval, but don't usually see that used on iRacing here, though. you got the usual case, a standard affair with the Rovals trying to get a good run through the first few corners and make it through as cleanly as you possibly can, especially if you're in the midfield in either the GT4 class or the LMP3s. Just making it through the first lap clean. You're not going to win the race on lap 1, but you sure can lose it, and these racers looking to try and keep a clean race car just to complete that first lap.
It's worth noting as well that new for 2025 in the PRL, or should I say a bit of a reversion for 2025, there will be no point for pole position awarded. So for the likes of Mo Ben Khan, who got pole last week and is on provisional pole this week, that little benefit is not going to be there this season. I think the league deemed that it wasn't enough of an award. Of course, you already got the reward for starting at the front of the field. There wasn't a need to give an additional point, and therefore there's slightly less to fight for in qualifying. But when you've got 55 points for a win anyway, one is somewhat insignificant, Ron.
Yeah, doubly so considering you've got an hour-long race in front of you for these racers. And you brought up a very good example talking about Mo Ben Khan, who started that Watkins Glen race from the pole position in the LMP3 category. He set a really good lap time as he's done at the moment, holding on to the provisional pole here at Daytona. But come time for the race, it was a mistake, I think about 15 to 20 minutes into that Watkins Glen race that really derailed his chances. He still ended up on the podium, just barely finishing in third. But the pole position, as much as it would probably hold a lot of benefit around a race where it isn't an hour long, it's that sort of advantage is, I wouldn't say null and void, because you still want to start from the pole, and also nice to have those bragging rights as well. But at the same time, it's not life or death if you end up on the pole or not.
And I think Matthew Wyckoff wouldn't mind ending up on the pole. He's just about to run up towards the line. Aiden Young currently on that provisional pole for the time being, but Matthew Wyckoff, who of course was teammate to Aaron Myers last season, looking to displace him, crosses the line, but it won't be enough of an improvement to see him jump anywhere up the order. He will stay in P2. Make that P3 though, because Justin Rame has improved to the front row of the grid, but not quite displacing Aiden Young for the time being. Great to see in the YouTube chat, Daniel Morad supporting part of the M squad. It's great to have you along with us, David, and it's hopefully going to be an hour's worth of excellent racing. Adam Brockway wouldn't mind an hour's worth of good racing, but I'm sure he wouldn't mind a quiet hour at the front of the field, somewhat like the 45 minutes towards the end of the race that he had last week. He was able to win the race, have the championship lead, but that is not going to be the optimal line through the bus stop chicane, I reckon.
Yeah, it's the optimum line if you want to mow the grass, but for going fast, it's not the good line at all. But trying those track limits and trying to see what the limit of grip is going to be in these LMP3 race cars. From my personal experience driving them on the iRacing platform, those LMP3s tend a bit more towards understeer. Could be driver error, could be a wildly different setup that I have on my race car. Either way, always felt that these cars had a bit more understeer towards them than some of the other cars that you see on the iRacing platform. So heading through that bus stop chicane in an LMP3 car, especially at the very start of this race, where a matter of tenths of a second can really spell the difference, is certainly going to be important, as we see Eric Leroy cross the line to jump up to third in the 444 car, and taking some liberties by using the apron coming to the line.
Aaron Myers as well could be a driver looking to set a fast lap time towards the end of this session. He's down in P12 for the time being, but I believe he is up on his lap time. We'll have to keep an eye on that as we only have 30 seconds left in the session. Miguel Vigo wouldn't mind everything staying as it is, though. Has a tenth and a half in front in the LMP3 category, but it's so close. 2 thousandths between Khan and Leroy for second and third really just epitomizes how close this league and this championship battle is going to be all the way through the season. Chris Smreka in the number 10 car, can he improve to the top 5? Yes, he can. Doesn't improve by very much, but you don't need very much in a tight, congested field such as this, and he'll find himself inside the top 5. Time has hit 0, though. There was no meaningful improvement in the end for Aaron Myers, I should say, and he will start quite a ways down the field from where we're used to seeing him, which is somewhat of a surprise as it gets a little bit darker around Daytona Run.
Yeah, that is a very disappointing qualifying session for some of the drivers who we saw in contention for the win at Watkins Glen 1 week ago, and also the drivers that we saw end up on the podium. But Miguel Vigo, he was in contention at the Glen. I wouldn't say he was a race winner and didn't show race winning speed. However, certainly showing pole position speed here at Daytona. We're going to take a look at this pole lap that he set, taking all the track liberties through turn number 1, carrying as much speed as you can on the exit through this small low meandering kink into the first horseshoe, which could be a really good overtaking opportunity at the start. May see some drama break out heading into that section. Now it's firmly in the infield, about to head their way into the kink in just a couple of moments time. We're seeing these pole position laps I am never going to grow old to, because it's like watching poetry in motion. Following Vigo heading his way into the second horseshoe. Now this section, I don't know about you here, Dara, but heading through the infield, this double hairpin situation, the horseshoe and then the turn coming out of the infield, it feels like a double whammy for these racers, doubly so if you find yourself in the midst of a crazy pack.
Yeah, it doesn't really help with traffic either, but of course with the amount of straight, obviously using the oval for realistically about 90% of the oval, it really does mean that there is more than enough time for moves to be made by drivers trying to lap others, and it should be, and I really add a should, an asterisk, big asterisk to the should, be a little bit easier on the traffic this evening than we are likely to see at tracks such as Long Beach and Mosport later on throughout the season. Vigo, though, full commitment through the Le Mans chicane, bouncing his way through and keeping it nice and tight around the final corner. It is so painful, isn't it, though, if you feel like you've not necessarily nailed that chicane, because it's going to run you all the way to the line, and you can see Vigo getting under the apron and trying to shave off as many thousandths as he possibly can.
Yeah, it may not seem like a whole lot considering this racetrack is a grand total of 3.5 miles, a tick over that to be a bit more precise, but any sort of distance shaved can make a huge difference. But you can see the driver certainly not shaving distance off their lap times heading through turn number 1 and into that entrance. That line, it looks rather goofy, but it's going to be the quick one for these racers as we're following Aiden Young and his pole position time in the GT4 category. Young in the 427 car has had a pretty good season thus far. He left the race at Watkins Glen with a P3 result, so looking to try and grab that win, and he was showing some pretty alright pace last time at, certainly showing some good pace here at Daytona, grabbing that pole position. And you can see that car, that Mercedes, tiptoeing his way around the racetrack and getting a little bit of counter steering action coming out of the second horseshoe.
Yeah, for Aiden Young last week, 33 drivers in the field, no problem. Will still pick up a podium, as he almost always does. And he's going to be looking for that first win of the season. He can't really be having someone else in the championship battle with him other than Aaron Myers. But as it is, we do, of course, have almost the Joker card being played by Garrett Maines in his McLaren. We'll see if he can stick around towards the top of the championship, whether Aiden Young and Aaron Myers can show their class and start to pull away as they have done. There's definitely more competition for them, though, this season. The Le Mans chicane, though, let's see how it is in the GT4. It's a little more sedate than it is in the LMP3s, and that's going to be a real point of contention, I think, throughout this race, Ron.
Yeah, I have a feeling that's going to be those lap traffic encounters going to be oh so tough for these racers to try and navigate. I mean, it's definitely going to be an apples to broccoli comparison here, Dara, but just one day ago here on RaceSpot, we were covering a different series that was running multi-class racing here at Daytona, albeit that was GT4s and GTPs and GT3s, so a little bit of a sample as to what we're going to be expecting for the Rolex 24, sorry, the iRacing Daytona 24. Had to get the right name there, but we got a good view as to what's like dealing with the traffic and dealing with that interclass mingling around a racetrack like this. It's still old school in nature, and those lap traffic encounters, if you're either a driver in an LMP3, seeing those GT4s act like a rolling roadblock in your mind coming up to them, or if you're in these GT4s watching an LMP3 come up in your rearview mirror where it feels like they're barreling up towards you going 14 times the speed of sound, it's going to be terrifying for a lot of these racers. So we got a 1 hour race in front of us under the lights, and it's going to be a 1 hour race that these drivers will probably be happy to see the other side of when everything is said and done.
Yeah, and to your point about GTPs and GT3s, don't forget PRL on Thursday night. We will see the GTP, LMP2 and GT3 series around Daytona if you didn't need more Daytona in your life. But this is the grid for tonight's LMP3 GT4 challenge, and it's headed by Miguel Vigo for Hydro Race Geodesic Racing. Mobin Khan got the pole last week, but he'll line up on the long side on the front row this time around. Eric Leroy, a good start to his season. He follows it up with a P3 in qualifying, and championship leader Adam Brockway are on row number 2. Zach Hebert, after a difficult race to kick off the season, will start from 5th with JP Alfonso alongside him on row number 3. Kwok Nying and David Stevenson are on row 4 with Carter James and Scott Angelo just about keeping themselves inside the top 10. Herbert Pineda and P2 man from last week Open on Ofra are in the top 12 as they will find themselves just ahead of Victor Couto and Dakiel Rodriguez, who are on row 7. Faizan Sheikh and Chad Nobles on row 8, with the grid rounded out by Jacob Van Spanje in P17 in the number 7. In the GT4s, Aiden Young will lead the field to green as as we're used to seeing by now. Arno GNS will be alongside him in P2. Justin Raymond, Roman Foe are on row 2 with Chris Schmerka and Kate Smith on row number 3. We've got Matthew Wykov and Eton Williams making up row 4, with these guys only 4/10 off pole, with Robert Schwenkler and Christy Menzies inside the top 10. Ken Copeland and Aaron Myers running out the top 12. Myers will be looking for a little bit more than that in the race. Eric Fenson in P13 ahead of Jeremy Rogers as they line up on row 7. It's Kurt Ham and Gabriel Gutierrez on row 8, and row 9 made up of Justin Bragan and Mike Gallant. We round out the top 20 with Roy Brown and Kalen Tobin. The outside the top 20 though is Joseph Daly and Keith Powell, Joe Faroni and Jeff Rosenberger, who are on rows 11 and 12. We've got Parker Muirhead, Travis Pruitt, Stephen Tang, Joe Manella and Joseph Maley, the top 29 and the only 29 GT4s that we will have in this race. Well over 40 cars for this one then, Ron. It's going to get congested, not as busy as it was going to be, or it was I should say last week at Watkins Glen, and we've got a little bit more space on the circuit for these cars, but either way, going to be an exciting one, and not long until we start to see the lapping take place.
Yeah, that lapping is going to come up to these drivers oh so quickly. Gonna be battling under the lights for the next hour. Hopefully all the viewers tuning into this broadcast tonight here on RaceSpot are going to be enjoying the action. I certainly will be, and I have a lot of stuff that I'm going to keep my eyes on, mainly Mobin Khan, the P2 starter, starting alongside our pole man of Adam Brockway. We'll note that Brockway on track to victory at Watkins Glen, started from second 1 week ago, so Khan starting this race in P2 may be able to revenge from that defeat at Watkins Glen 1 week ago and try and grab that victory. Who knows? It's going to be an exciting hour, though.
Yeah, PRL's Daytona week is about to get underway. It's the LMP3 GT4 challenge, and we are green. Vigo gets us going. Mobin can't quite react quick enough, and he's going to have another couple of drivers, including championship leader Adam Brockway, coming up alongside him. In the GT4s, though, a little bit easier actually for Aiden Young to get off the line. Justin Raymond trying to go around the outside and keep himself in contention. Cade Smith, big crash in the GT4s. Cade Smith going around. He's part of that big collision that'll all be skittling around on the outside of turn number 1. Multiple cars off the circuit. They're going to have to recover. They've got an hour to do so, but disaster for Cade Smith and a couple of others. We'll have to see what they can do in the rest of this race.
Yeah, that was a lot of drama going on heading down into turn number 1. You can see some drivers towing back to pit lane as well. Some severe damage. A lot of race cars up and down this grid, but that was drama heading down into turn number 1 for the GT4s. Looked like a lot of stuff going on in the span of just a couple of moments. Multiple cars coming to blows, multiple cars making contact with each other, and a big convergence of GT4 cars going to end their race very early on.
Yeah, it was Cade Smith, Matthew Wykov, Eton Williams and Kristen Menzies have been caught up in all of that, dropping down into the teens of positions. A really disastrous start for those guys. But we're going to get onto the banking for the first time to complete the opening lap. And Zach Hebert is under all sorts of pressure from JP Alfonso. Big gap up to Adam Brockway, a second and a half already nearly. And going side by side into the Le Mans chicane on the opening lap isn't necessarily ideal. But Alfonso gets it done around the outside. And what a move that is from the 996.
That was gutsy, doubly so, to go for a move like that so early on into this race, but it's not over yet. You can see the 511 of Hooper trying to get that move done around the outside of Alfonso, heading through 3 and 4 on the oval, but look at that right behind, lurking in the distance, and look at a pounce if there's any sort of drama going on involving these racers, giving a small little kiss to that apron as they're still going to be side by side hanging to 1.
Yeah, inside line it will be for JP Alfonso. Hebert on the outside. He's being shuffled out on the outside line. And Kwok Ning's coming through. There's another couple of cars going wide and off the circuit. It's all kicking off down at turn 1. Drivers clearly trying to find their braking points in the opening stages of the race. But it will be Alfonso from Kwok Ning, from Zach Hebert, that is, in 5th, 6th and 7th as they're on their way through the International Horseshoe. But they're still going side by side. They won't leave each other alone. This time it's Gabriel Gutierrez fighting right. I apologise. It's Carter James fighting around with Edwin on offer as they work their way down in towards the second of the 2 horseshoes. And there is Carter James in the number 99 car for Echelon Simsport, trying to follow his teammate Zach Hebert through, but struggling for the time being.
Yeah, struggling, but we still got a whole lot of time left to go. Look at that sideways, slideways through the braking zone. That is not going to work out at all. The 99 going to lose out on a boatload of time, and maybe going to lose out on some more spots as we go back onto the bank. And Carter James may have had a little bit of rear locking heading down a couple of moments ago. However, the side-by-side fight involving Kwok Ming in that number 86 car still going to flare up as we may have an attempted move heading down into the bus stop chicane. Not close enough.
Mind you, JP Alfonso is already nearly 2 seconds off the back of Adam Brockway, and with that slipstream seemingly disconnected, it's going to be very difficult to get back inside. There is the driver of the number 86. Great to have some driver cams on the Monday night. We always love having them on the broadcast. He is trailing JP Alfonso as they run their way towards turn 1. Possible P5 in the offing for the 86 as we work our way across the checkered, or across the start-finish line. Here comes Zach Hebert, though, around the outside. They're 3 wide down in towards turn 1. Not a good place to be in the middle, but Hebert's going to try and go all the way around the outside. He's got 2 for the price of 1. What a move from Zach Hebert. We are seeing toing and throwing already in this battle, and clearly moves can be made anywhere on this circuit.
Yeah, again, the move's done to making hay while the sun is shining. The headlights certainly are shining as side-by-side racing continuing off into turn number 5. That could have ended in tears. I gotta get my quarter numbers right. I believe that was turn number 4. But it's nevertheless these drivers battling every single opportunity that they possibly can find. Hebert in that number 511 car. Now got to feel a challenge from Alfonso. Trying to get a move done around the outside into the second horseshoe. That's gutsy, and it's not going to work out for now, but the 511 feeling a whole lot of pressure from the cars behind.
Yeah, it really has been an incredibly frantic start. We're not even 5 minutes into the race. This is a replay of what we saw at the start in the GT4s. Everybody getting into each other, including teammates. It's not been a very pretty start from all of the guys back there, and I believe that is Matthew Wykov that we're seeing here getting involved in all of that. Oh, another big crash going on down at the West Horseshoe. That's Herbert Pineda, who found himself into the barrier and right down the order in the 991. Similarly for Matthew Wykov, again, the number 4, what's happened to him? More contact down at the Le Mans chicane this time, and he's spun around and is now right at the back of the field. Frantic opening stages in this race, and I think about it, it's just settling down now, Ron.
Yeah, it is settling down, but I think this settling down period is not going to last a long time at all. Looking at the clock, you think, okay, yeah, we still got 54 minutes left to go, but as we see another spin, this involving Jeff Rosenberger in the number 82, I'm going to have to take a look to see where the LMP3 leaders are in reference to the back of the pack in GT4. I think we're going to have some lapping to talk about in the not too far off future here, Dara, because that is going to throw another wrench in the works for these racers, since we may have a side-by-side fight heading off into turn number 4 between Herbert and Leroy. They're not close enough between those two heading off into the first horseshoe. Battling continuing all throughout this grid. This, I believe, is one of the cars farther towards the back in GT4, and you can see still a bit of a cushion between the LMP3 and GT4 runners, but that cushion is going to disappear in trying to do the math in my head. We'll probably start to see lapping begin by the time we break past the first 10 minutes.
Yeah, I'd give it 3 or 4 minutes for us to start to see some lapping occur. It helps a little bit with the GT4s that we saw quite a few of them drop off the back, which means that they won't be as deep in terms of oh my word, in terms of the train. That's Parker Muirhead. I think it's fair to say getting taken out down in towards the Le Mans chicane. I'm sure the stewards will have a look at that one, but Muirhead, I'm not too sure we'll be terribly happy about that one. We're going to arrive at the Le Mans chicane with some of the front-running LMP3s now, and still this battle raging on. JP Alfonso leading it, but they are somewhat closer to Zach Hebert and Eric Leroy. The problem is they've got 2.5 seconds to the top 3, and that's a gap that's very difficult to bridge at a very draft-heavy circuit.
Yeah, a kind of gap to pull around this track. You need to hope for some sort of incident to befall one of your competitors to be able to think about getting into a comfort zone. These drivers certainly uncomfortable, though. Side by side, hang off into turn number 1. Who's gone back out of it? Doesn't look like either of them will. A little bit of wiggling and 3 wide. That's not going to work, boys. And a spinner for the 96.
Yeah, and the 96 not going to be terrible. Please, that's 7 on Offra, the driver, of course, who finished on the podium last week to kick off the season. So close to his maiden PRL win, but he has to now try and recover to get himself back in towards contention, maybe even for just a top 5. Still a very long way to go, though. 52.5 minutes left on the clock. This is another replay of what we've just seen. Hebert going to the inside. Again, differing lines into the opening corner. They've all converged, and I think they'll all be pointing the fingers at each other there.
Yeah, I think you brought up a very good point there in terms of the different drivers running 4 different lines heading off into turn number 1. That's the thing when it comes to a corner like that and a section like that where it bottlenecks. You have so many different drivers going for some various lines. Overtakes can be easy, as we just saw 2 McLarens battle heading. Is running 9th at the moment in the number 22 Porsche, but he's got 2 McLarens battling tooth and nail right in front of him. Just saw some side-by-side racing heading off into 1 a couple of moments ago, but nevertheless getting back to that discussion about that incident in the LMP3s. You got such varied lines that these racers can run that you're just eventually going to have some overlap. I did not have a good feeling about that at all as soon as I saw those racers go 3 wide off into turn 1. 3 wide can work on the high banks, can't work on the infield though.
Yeah, not the first time in the last couple of days that we've seen some interesting moves or interesting lines down at turn 1 at Daytona. Will not be the last time, I'm sure, over the next 7 days or so here on RaceSpotTV. Don't forget, tomorrow night we've got the GT3 action here at Daytona. On Thursday night, it's going to be the other road series of the GTP LMP2 GT3 series. And of course, don't forget, on Wednesday night, we've also got the truck series to keep you entertained all week long on RaceSpotTV. And then, of course, we've got the 24 hours coming up at the weekend, so it's Daytona Central this week, and a lot of these drivers are going to be participating in quite a few of those events, so they're going to get more than used to the circuit, but they've got to get used to their own machinery. Justin Ray, more than used to his GT4 machinery, one of the most successful drivers in the PRL in these GT4s. He has to try and pick his way past Arno Genesto, who finished P4 last week. A very good start to the season, looking to try and keep up his championship challenge, but as Justin Ray gets towards the line, bit of a bump draft to help him along, not going for the move just yet.
Yeah, not going for the move. I'm curious as to whether or not these drivers are maybe sizing up, closing up that gap to the back of the 427 car of Aiden Young, because that gap has ballooned as we go back in the GT4s to see some side-by-side racing continuing off into turn number 1. Lots of McLarens trading blows like they're a bunch of boxers in a ring, but let's see, heading off into turn number 4, the first horseshoe around this track. Looks like they're finally going to single file out. This is a massive pack of race cars battling for 6th, and it's currently Eric Fenton in the 77 car that leads this train of race cars, heading their way, careening their way through turn number 5 as it stands currently. But getting back to the point I was going to mention in terms of that Arne Jest and Justin Rem bump drafting heading down the tri-oval, I gotta wonder as to whether or not they are sizing up the opportunity to close up that gap to Aiden Young and really turn this into a 3-car battle for the lead in GT4.
Yeah, and I'm sure for Aaron Myers at the moment, he's going to be feeling as if he's faffing around towards the back end of the top 10, really. Will feel like he should be at the sharp end of the race, albeit he's only about 6 seconds off the lead at the moment. He will feel that that's 6 seconds too far away. Move we're seeing being made down at the International Horseshoe. Very difficult to make it work completely there in the battle for P11 as they work their way through the dogleg. This is between Victor Couto and Dakiel Rodriguez at the moment as they work their way into the West Horseshoe, and it looks just about as if Victor Couto has got that move done. Dakiel Rodriguez will have to find somewhere else to make a re-overtake, and I don't think you're going to find it down at turn 6 and 7, and he will sit in behind and wait. But this is now where we're going to start to see quite a lot of the lapping take place, I do believe. The back of the GT4s are being caught by the front of the LMP3s, and let the chaos commence here.
And I rarely, if ever, like to toot my own horn, but I think my prediction was actually rather accurate. I said that we were going to start to see that LMP3 GT4 convergence around the 10-minute mark into this race. We're coming up to the 12-minute mark, a tick under that to be a bit more precise. And like what we're seeing, we're starting to see that convergence begin to brew. So not calling myself not calling myself good at predictions. Just tune into any of the broadcasts that I do to know that I'm not good at giving predictions at all. But it looks like one of my predictions actually hasn't aged like milk in the Nevada sun.
Yeah, it's going to be... it's a good one. I'll give you that. It's your first tick in the PRL. How's that? We'll put that next to your name. I don't know where we put those. We'll probably put them somewhere. Ask Hugo on the broadcast. He probably has a ticker somewhere. He always has a ticker. But we will have to keep note of that. I'll have to try and make one at some point during the broadcast. Otherwise, you're going to outdo me this evening, and we can't be having that, can we? But anyway, 47.5 minutes left in this race. Justin Ray, interesting figure in the GT4s because... one of the most successful figures in the GT4s. Arno Genest, of course, one of the most a driver with one of the most attendances in the PRL is what I'm trying to say there. Has racked up so many starts in the PRL and so many podiums to go with it. So these two definitely will know exactly how to fight against each other, but they've also got to know that Aiden Young is a very dangerous figure in a GT4. He's the two-time reigning champion towards the back end of the last season coming into 2025, and that'll be why he's winning the race. He wasn't able to win last week, but almost trying to rectify that by winning race number 2 and putting himself immediately back in that championship lead as it stands.
Yeah, and Aiden Young doing a really good job at just maintaining an even pace and allowing these two behind to go side by side off into turn number 1. Not going to see an attempted overtake as we go back to the battle for 7th in the GT4 class. That is absolute madness heading down into turn number 1. Certainly side by side, nearly 3 wide a couple of moments ago. That's not going to work out well. You can see some of the wrong stuff competitors just barely in the back of shot as we see these racers negotiate the first few corners at the very beginning of this lap. Nearly some bumping heading off into turn number 4, but just to tie the bow around the storyline involving the massive pace from Aiden Young thus far. He is certainly a very quick driver considering he's built up a 1-second gap in the GT4 class, which I will note is actually going down a little bit. Hopefully not pulling off a commentator's jinx here on this PRL broadcast as nearly coming to blows as Aaron Myers riding on board with him as he nearly runs into the back of the McLaren right in front of him. That I believe, unless I'm very much mistaken, was looking through, trying to figure out exactly who that was there. Stand by. I think that it was certainly a McLaren, but either way, that was terrifyingly close.
Yeah, very scary for those guys down on the circuit as we ride on board with Aaron Myers. You can just about see the track through the top right-hand side of his window. And of course, as it levels out, more of the circuit becomes apparent too, as we can see the lights around and we can really focus in on where we're going to turn into the Le Mans chicane. Myers trying to get the best run he can. He needs to get himself further up the order. Cannot afford to be standing P9 with Aiden Young currently winning the race. Again, albeit the gap between the cars is all of 7 seconds, if that. But it's just too far, and with so many cars between them, the circuit where it can be very difficult to overtake, it's going to feel like a very long way back for Aaron Myers if he can't start making the moves pretty soon into this race. And at this stage, we are now a quarter of the way through this 1 hour at Daytona.
Yeah, already a quarter of the way into this race. A lot of stuff has gone on thus far. We've seen some incidents. We've been seeing some battles all throughout this grid, and we're still seeing the battle develop off into turn number 1. Look at that. That was incredibly bold a couple of moments ago. That was Aaron Myers having a side-by-side fight with himself and Robert Schwankler for the Wrong Stuff team. That could have ended in disaster heading off into turn 1 a couple of moments ago, but those drivers making it through very, very nicely. But I think we may have some double trouble to talk about as Robert Schwankler and Ken Copeland, both Wrong Stuff teammates in the 235 and 15 cars respectively. Despite the fact they're running with different manufacturers, they are teammates. So that's going to be a nice battle to keep our eyes on for as we got some LMP3 runners negotiating their way through the field. That I believe may be the leaders, and it should be noted the lead pack in an LMP3 has been vacuum sealed together. Vigo has not been able to shake off any challenge from Mobin Khan as those two cars separated by about a half a second, with Adam Brockway, the race winner at Watkins Glen, not terribly far behind as well.
Yeah, Vigo, it's worth noting, in the opening round, didn't finish the race. So comes into this one with 0 points. You'd say naturally he would drop that round, but he won't want to drop any more. Well, what a big crash on the exit of turn one. Scott Angelo caught up in all of that. Multiple sideways hits, though, down there in towards 2 and 3. Very scary for the drivers involved, and that'll take a lot of them out of contention. But with Vigo, Khan and Brockway, 2 of the top 3 from last week, and the did not finish in Miguel Vigo. This is what Matthew Wyckoff saw. He got caught up in the wars, didn't he, in the opening lap? And where can you go? Just about avoiding. No! And that's a very bad rejoin from the LMP3. Matthew Wyckoff couldn't do anything there and almost got driven into the side of.
It was going so well for so long until it went so badly so quickly. That was so unfortunate looking at that, because he had it. He got away with that, and then the LMP3 not really holding the brakes, rolling a little bit forward, and then bang into the side of it. That's going to take him out of contention. Really tough to have an incident like that, but again, it's racing. Stuff like that can happen, and sadly, those falling anvils, they're merciless whenever they're dropped out of the helicopters around these racetracks. Doesn't matter where that falling anvil came from, you're going to be the one that ends up with a dent in your head if it hits you square in the noggin. So these racers looking to try to avoid those as best as they can, but whether it's the moves they're pulling out on the racetrack trying to dodge them, or whether they have some steel umbrellas, let's just wait and see if these drivers are able to avoid the chaos and avoid the drama and stay out the hoopla, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, it's a bit of a palaver, I think we'd say, here in the UK. I don't know if that's necessarily used too much in America, but it's just a bit of chaos, isn't it? And you can get it at a circuit like Daytona. The walls do get slightly narrow, particularly on the exit of turn number 1, as we see Carter James going for a bit of a bumpy run and mowing the lawn, getting ourselves ready. Whoa, that's why we're having a slow motion replay. And Hugo queued that one up for us. What a shot that is of Carter James. That's not necessarily where he wants to be. And the Echelon Simsport driver will have to rejoin the circuit pretty sheepishly there.
If that doesn't end up on iRacing highlights video, I really don't know what would. That was glorious. I think, the Summer Olympics passed in 2024, so I think it may be a little bit out of time for us to make a judgment on the gymnastic move that we saw a couple of moments ago from that LMP3 competitor. But I'll have to give that a solid 7.8 out of 10, but I'll touch on that in a couple of moments. Meanwhile, though, the side-by-side fighting heating up 3 wide with an LMP3 car as Ram trying to finally get that move done. The 88 to slip his way up into P2 and GT4, and he gets it done.
Yeah, Justin Rame getting a step closer to what would be his 24th PRL win in history. Aiden Young going for his 20th. Arnaud Jeunesse going for his 11th. So clearly a lot of experience at the front between them coming into this race. They have got 51 wins, and they're looking for a 52nd. But who's going to get it really is going to be the question. Roman Foe would like to spoil that party somewhat. He's just in behind the battle, and he's got Chris Smreka, who is also just behind him in a top 5 that is generally nicely packed together. Bit of a gap back to Eric Benson, but we've seen that battle for P6 roll on all day long as we see some LMP3s work their way through. I think that could have been Edwin Onofre working his way through. Jerry Manella in the 8-1, I should say. What's happened to him? Oh, getting spun, again, then getting hit by the number 3. Not too sure if Mike Gallant knew what was going on in his number 3, and Manella not seemingly too pleased about it. But all these little incidents, the majority happening at turn 1, it seems.
Yeah, turn 1 seeming to be the real trouble spot for these racers. I'm a little bit surprised about that. Haven't seen a lot of drama heading off into one of the horseshoes. Haven't seen a lot of drama heading off into the bus stop outside of some schmozzles in the GT4 class at the very early stages of this race. But in all the drama, it's allowed these two to break up in the LMP3 category. These two have entirely checked out from Adam Brockway. He's now 4.5 seconds back. But Vigo and Khan very close to coming to blows heading off through turn number 1. These racers giving us one heck of a fight for the overall win. Come up to the halfway mark in about 9 minutes time.
Yeah, Vigo, of course, buoyed from his first ever pole position in PRL. He'll be absolutely delighted about it. He's just got Mobin Khan, who got the first pole position of 2025 in this series last week, who is right on his tail. Khan with a fastest lap as well, clearly trying to assert some authority in this race. Will be ruining the missed opportunity to go for the win after the pole last week. Wouldn't mind picking up a win to almost rectify that mistake in race number 2. Adam Brockway, if he stays where he is, could mean that Mobin Khan could steal the championship lead as well, coming coming out of Daytona, albeit that lead could just be a single point, if that. They'll run their way back onto the banking once again with Vigo leading the way, but Mobin Khan in the slipstream, in the tow. He'll be gaining all the way to the bus stop chicane, or to the Le Mans chicane, and then he'll be gaining all the way back to turn number 1 again.
Yeah, that yin and yang, the yo-yo effect going on in terms of the gaps that we have up and down this grid. Gonna see that a lot between now and the checkered flag. And hey, we still got 38 minutes over that of racing action left to go here from the PRL tonight. Look at some battling all up and down this grid. But one battle that has not really heated up at all is the GT4 class, because we've seen Justin Rem and Arnaud Genet, that we've seen those drivers trade blows. They've been going side by side, but ever since Rem got that move done in the number 88 car, he has really caused that battle to cool off. It's now about a second separating these two racers in P2 and P3 in the GT4 category. I will say, though, getting back to a point that I was going to raise a little while ago with Aiden Young, he has been militarily consistent thus far in this race, setting just about the same lap times that he's been doing ever since the start. I'll have to break those up in a couple of moments' time as we see a spin for Carter James in the number 99 in the LMP3 category, going off the track with contact being made with himself and the car of Ken Copeland in that Mercedes Wrong Stuff car. Certainly pointed the wrong way heading through turn number 4. But getting back to the battle in the LMP3 category, dealing with some more GT4 traffic, but in all of that drama, these drivers have still been vacuum sealed together.
Yeah, Carter James having a bit of a struggle at the moment. We saw him go quite literally flying not too long ago, thanks to Hugo's great slow motion replay, but also having that incident down at the International Horseshoe. He's got a little bit of work to do to try and get himself back into contention, but he's still, I believe, somehow inside the top 10 in class. Indeed he is, so doing an impressive job to keep himself there, but he's going to have to make sure that those mistakes aren't replicated in the second half of the race. Mobin Khan still stalking his way behind Miguel Vigo. I think the conversation we now have to start thinking about is, when do we start thinking about pit stops? Of course, the pit window will be more than open for these drivers, but they will likely extend it a little bit further. We've seen it time and time again in the LMP3s that drivers go a little bit longer into the race. The conversation can be had, though. Can Mobin Khan go a little bit earlier into the pit lane? We saw it a lot last season where he'd be the first to blink. Is he going to try and change that for 2025, or are we going to see the first occasion that will happen this season? We'll stay behind Miguel Vigo through turn 1, but Khan will definitely be racking his strategy brain at the moment, trying to figure out what he can do to try and make this move, if not on the circuit.
Oh, and you can see the flashing headlights from Mobin Khan trying to deal with that GT4 traffic while also following his competitor through. They nearly went side by side a couple of moments ago, heading off into turn number 1, but these racers seeing some more GT4 traffic and those pit stops coming up. You saw at Watkins Glen 1 week ago, Dara, as these drivers nearly come to blows heading off into turn number 6. That could have ended in tears, but we saw at Watkins Glen these LMP3 racers come in the final 15 minutes, and that rather shook things up in that LMP3 class battle 1 week ago. So I have a feeling we're going to have a case of deja vu yet again. Doubly so considering how challenging the pit entry and exits are around this lap. Look at splitting the difference. Both of these racers going 3 wide with the GT4s, trying to follow each other and go tit for tat in terms of the moves that they're going to pull off on their competitors. I'm going to go back to that point in a couple of moments, talking about the traffic dilemma that these LMP3 racers always have to have at the forefront of their mind in these races. But the pit entry going to be really important. That's a good spot to gain some time, but it's also a bad spot to lose some time, because a lot of drivers tend to take it a little bit easy heading off through there. It's a deceptive pit entry, and it's caught at many drivers before. The pit exit, though, around here is notoriously sketchy. Even a driver like Jeff Gordon, who back in 2016 ran the real life Rolex 24, was running in DPI and actually hit the barrier coming out of the pits. So the pit exit gotta be really tough for these racers. Doubly so we're running under the lights with some not necessarily ideal track conditions for these drivers. I will say, though, the track temperature at 78, so that's not too bad, but that pit exit still going to be very slippery.
Yeah, definitely going to be one where you're going to have to be careful and make sure that you keep it on the circuit. It's a very long pit exit as well, of course. A long time that you're going to find yourself on the limit. This is definitely things that the drivers are going to have to factor into the final 34 minutes of this race. LMP3 is going to work their way through as we get down in towards the bus stop chicane. I'm interchanging between bus stop and Le Mans, probably as much as some of the drivers do as we work our way through this tight and technical part of the lap. The LMP3 should be able to go to the outside and then use the banking and work its way through, but so difficult to really judge, particularly into the chicane, exactly what pace the GT4s are going, and we've seen it time and time again, how difficult, how easy it is, I should say, to misjudge, and we've seen instances occur because of that. We're seeing most of the incidents happen down at turn 1 for the time being, and hopefully that'll continue. Hopefully we get less incidents down at turn 1, but hopefully we can keep it nice and clean at the chicane, because it's never nice to see a big collision down there. Into turn 1 this time though, with this mid-pack battle in the GT4s, and everyone seems content to stick where they are for the time being.
Yeah, I think these drivers are reaching the point in their race where they're a bit content with the spot that they're running, and doubly so because we have those pit stops that we've been talking about over the past few minutes. They're maybe thinking, okay, going side by side and just battling tooth and nail for a spot, even though we have a pit stop to worry about in the not too distant future, it doesn't seem like a smart strategy call to these racers. So I think that could be part of the reason why they're starting to settle down and maybe lower their heartbeat a teeny tiny bit, give themselves a small little reprieve for the final stretch of this race where the pressure's going to ramp up, the battling is certainly going to ramp up, and these drivers are going to give us one heck of a finish in all the classes that we have. Even GT4, I gotta say, Justin Rem has closed up that gap dramatically between himself and Aiden Young. It's now only 0.3 of a second between those two at the front of GT4. So despite the fact that Aiden Young has been really consistent, the driver of the 88 just using his experience and using his pace to try and reel it in and grab his first checkered flag of this season.
Yeah, it's still a long way to go though, mind you. We've still got more than half of this race left to run. The frantic nature of the opening 25 minutes means that a lot of these drivers may look up at the clock and think, wow, we've still got a long way to go here at Daytona. Time can disappear though, as if through an egg timer, because of the fact we have so many long straights. Time always just disappears on those straights. You're not really gaining or losing very much at all, and yet you're losing 30, 45 seconds every single lap. A driver going slow on the outside line won't be benefiting at all from that. We'll see if there's a move to the outside at turn number 1. Can we finally see someone dance their way on the brakes all the way around the outside? Got to be very, very careful on how you apply the throttle on the exit of turn 1. A little bit squirrely on the exit, and we're going to see another little bit of too wide through turn 2 and turn 3. They'll make their way to the International Horseshoe, and Ken Copeland is trying to keep himself in contention here, but he's lost out the position whilst going for yet another, and that's the kind of trade-off you're going to have to face at a track like Daytona.
Yeah, that's a key feature of trying to get some moves done around here. You need to get it done with authority. Otherwise, you're going to find yourself just getting pushed by the wayside and have all of your competitors blow your doors off as if you're standing still. Copeland certainly felt that a couple of moments ago, heading off through the first few corners of this lap. Running wide as well, coming out of turn number 6. That's not going to help him out at all. But I will say, losing time in turn number 1 around a racetrack like this, you could easily make it up by the time you head off into turn number 1 in 1 lap's time. So we'll have to wait and see if Copeland will be able to get some moves back done, losing out a little bit to the Aston Martin right in front of him. However, still going to be close. These 3 drivers, though, at the front of GT4 have really gotten themselves packed up. Young and Rem were covered by, what was it, like a second and a half not terribly long ago? It's now only 0.3. And yeah, go back to the Janae car, the 312 running in 3rd in GT4. He's only about a second, less than a second behind Aiden Young. So these 3 at the front of GT4 have just brought us a really good fight. And look at Smirker in the number 10 as well. He's involved in this battle as well.
Yeah, it really is quite a congested part of the field. Justin Rame, though, looking for that race lead. Aiden Young has been chased down, and that's not something I've said very much over the last 6 months, despite seeing Aiden Young race more than a fair few times. He's a driver that can create a lead and extend it. That's not happening today. Justin Rain returning to the series really is putting the cat amongst the pigeons. Himself and Aiden Young, arguably the two most impressive GT4 drivers, at least of the last year, in the PRL, and they're now going directly head-to-head. I mentioned earlier, and I'm pleased, hey, you know, we're 1-1 now in the predictions, Ron. Mobin Khan, I said earlier how he can often go for an early pit stop. Hey, he's come into the pit lane earlier than anybody else in the top 10 in the LMP3s. We'll see if this works out for him, whether he puts himself into a little bit of traffic.
Yeah, that's going to be oh so important for him. Well done, by the way, on going 1-for-1 for the predictions. We're on fire for these. Knowing our luck, though, I probably just jinxed that we're going to be having some predictions that age like milk over the next half of this broadcast. But making that run to come into pit lane, I'm curious where he's going to shake out. He exits out in 9th in the LMP3 category. However, what is the deal with him exiting out in traffic with the GT4 drivers? I think he may have gotten himself in a nice little window, considering we're following the GT4 leaders at the moment. They're heading their way through NASCAR 3 and 4, so he's already out of pit lane as Mobin Khan, so he may have found himself in that nice little cushion to get out of the pits, not have to worry about dirty air or traffic or any other chaos around you that could drag you into a mistake. He's just got to find himself in that comfy, cozy zone, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, I don't think some of these guys feel like it's a comfy cozy zone at the top for the GT4s, because they are in such close quarters. Arno Janest and Chris Schmracker now attaching himself to the back of the train as they work their way down in towards the International Horseshoe once again. Of course, pit stop's going to be in the mind for these four, but all four of them in with a fantastic shot with the win. And for Chris Schmracker, he really has worked his way through the field, even just by a couple of spots, past Romain Foe, past Eric Fenson as well, and being able to catch this leading train. How crucial can that be for him to maybe get a podium, maybe even a win? Here is Mobin Khan out of the pit lane now. P9 is where he finds himself. He's just got to hope that 8 drivers come into the pit lane and find themselves behind him on the circuit once they come out.
Yeah, one thing that I am really curious about here, Dara, about that call from Mobin Khan to come into the pits, whether or not it's going to cause this small trickle of drivers coming down pit lane to turn from a trickle into a full-on flood. Touch on that in a couple of moments as we see Mike Gallant in the number 3 car go for a spin, heading off through turn number 6. Really no harm, no foul there. I think there may have been a little bit of a touch, though, from the LMP3 car right behind him. Either way, that's going to cost him a little bit of time, but getting back up to the front and following Vigo in the number 62 car has built up that gap to himself and Brockway to 1.7 seconds, dealing with some traffic still heading off through the Le Mans chicane, and following some more LMP3 runners making that call to come into pit lane and exiting out on those cold, greasy tires.
Yeah, difficult to really get them up to temperature, as we have touched upon. I'm going to touch again very quickly on that GT4 battle. I know I said that, of course, Aiden Young, Justin Rame, and Arno Janest have a combined 52 wins in PRL, looking for a 53rd. Well, Chris Schmracker has none to his name, so he's looking for his first. So real chalk and cheese comparison between the top 3 and Chris Schmracker for the time being. Let's see what he can do as they work their way into the International Horseshoe once again. Tightly packed train. I don't think many LMP3s will want to get too involved in this for risk of getting, well, if anything else, on the nerves of some of these GT4s who are loving their battle, I'm sure, and won't want it interfered in too much by some pesky traffic working its way through. Round the second of the 2 horseshoes they will come, with Aiden Young still leading, and he's been leading out in front for a while now, but he doesn't feel as comfortable as it once did, even if he has led pretty much every single second of this race.
Yeah, Young has been feeling okay at the beginning and has not been feeling okay as of late. I'm going to look through and touch on a point that I was going to raise earlier on in terms of Aiden Young's lap times. Looking through, it's been very consistent going through the 18 lap times that he's set on the board thus far. There's only a handful of cases in which he's dipped out of the 152s. He has been very, very consistent as of late, but looking at the times from Justin Rem, even last time by, it was about a 10th in terms of the pace differential between those two. Rem in the 88, certainly a little bit quicker last time by, as we've got Vigo, the leading car in LMP3, dealing with those drivers as they head through NASCAR 3 and 4. But Young, as much as he's been consistent, he just hasn't had the pace advantage over Justin Rem, who may be maybe a bit less consistent than his adversary, but nevertheless going to be a deciding factor in that battle, as Vigo coming into the pits from the lead in LMP3.
And let's see what is going to be the gap between Vigo and, of course, Moin Khan on the pit exit. Roman Foe coming in from the GT4s, one of the front runners, it's fair to say, in that battle. Aaron Myers going long, and he's now inside the top 5. Chris Schmarek has gone for a move as well on Arno Genest, and he's up into the top 3 now. Here is Moin Khan making his way around the banking. How far can he get before we see Miguel Vigo start to move? Of course, Vigo will have to go around the very long pit exits. Even if he starts moving in the next couple of seconds, there will be hope, I'm sure, for Moin Khan. Moin Khan actually may have an advantage here. There he is in the background at the top of the shot. He'll have the inside, the outside at turn number 1. Vigo has to get on the power quickly, though. I think Khan's got it. In fact, he does. Moin Khan back to what should be the net race lead. He's got 23 minutes to defend it, to keep himself in the lead. How difficult is that going to be? Vigo's not a million miles away, and with a slightly fresher looking car.
Yeah, you got Vigo right behind. It's just enough of a gap whereby Khan is maybe feeling a bit confident. Keyword, a bit confident. He is not feeling over the moon at this point in time. He'd probably want that gap to be a bit more, and he's certainly going to be working hard to try and extend that gap, as Vigo is still going to have to deal with these cold, greasy tires coming out of pit lane. But Khan feeling really good about that strategy call. I was going to say, when I saw Khan come out of the pits, not really involved in any sort of chaos and craziness around him, that was going to be a really good call to come into the pits for Khan. It worked out like a charm for him. That number 64 car was able to utilize that clean air, that clean space on the racetrack, and jump his way into the lead. Adam Brockway, though, off the back of a win at Watkins Glen 1 week ago, he's now coming into the pits in the number 42 car. I have a feeling, though, that he is going to be dropping behind Khan and Vigo. Let's see, though, as we have a big chunk of the GT4 field coming in.
And this is going to be chaos, quite frankly, down on pit lane. I think that was the podium for the Rolex 24 in the background. Who's going to be standing in that part of this venue in about 22 minutes' time? We will wait and find out. Arno Genest, Chris Schmarek, 2 of the drivers in the GT4s. Aaron Meyer staying out long means he's put himself inside the top 3. Brockway is now behind Khan and Vigo, as we would expect. Eric Leroy, of course, now down into P5 as well. Edwin Onofre, really now the only frontrunner that we're waiting to come into pit lane, and he will drop down from the lead of the race. Podium last week doesn't look like it's going to be the same result this time out, and Khan, Vigo and Brockway are going to be the 3 fighting it out for the victory. Only about 5.5 seconds between all of them, and that could start to tighten in the final 21 minutes of this race.
Yeah, at this point in time, the real question is, who's the most confident? Who feels confident in their race car? Who feels confident in their chances? And who feels confident in themselves? Can it be a driver like Moin Khan? He is certainly fueled by the rather disappointing result at the Glen 1 week ago. Started from the pole, was really, really fast, but that mistake kind of caused his race to go into a bit of a downward spiral. Still recovered up to 3rd, but at the end of the day, that was probably not the result that he had in mind after starting this race at the north end of the field. Khan, though, off the back of starting in P2 here at Daytona, trying to do what Adam Brockway did 1 week ago at the Glen and grab the checkered flag from a front row start, but not the pole start. That is really, really important to note. Brockway, though, I'm wondering as to whether or not he's going to get involved in that fight, or if he'll have the time to even get involved in that, as the front 2 and GT4 of Aiden Young and Justin Rem coming into the pits.
And look at how close they were as they made their way in towards the pit limiter line. They will pretty much get into the same part of the bit for the box. Oh no! Justin Rames overshot his box. He's had to reverse. That's going to cost him more time than he would have liked, and it's going to promote, surely, Arno Genest up into the top 2 here. Chris Schmarek is going to be loving that if he can get inside the top 3 as well, although I think Schmarek is a little bit off the back of Arno Genest as they make their way through. Where did they come out, though? That's going to be the real question, as Moin Khan has taken the lead. He already had the lead in there on Miguel Vigo, but Vigo's keeping it nice and close. Aiden Young, Justin Rame, Aaron Myers in the pit lane. Where is the likes of Arnaud Jeunesse as they make their way through? Here is the top two. Young still ahead of Justin Rame, and Rame not losing as much time as I actually thought he was going to there, because he was 1.4 seconds quicker in the box, which meant that it almost cancelled out the time. Here is Jeunesse coming around turn number 1. Where are the top two? They're just coming out of the box now. They've got a decent enough gap to the 3-1-2 that it may become a bit of a two-horse race at the end here.
I gotta say, I think part of the reason why that is the case, the fact that Aiden Young and Justin Rem have been able to exit out with that gap, is because of the 121 car of Stephen Tang, who I can tell you for sure that Jeunesse is not very happy with, on the account of the fact that I just saw him flashing his lights a couple of moments ago coming at turn number 4. So that could be part of the reason why that gap has grown between some of the drivers up towards the front end of the GT4 field. But at the front of LMP3, it is still incredibly tight. Mobin Khan leading at Miguel Vigo. Last time by, he set the fast lap of the race as well, so that number 62 car is certainly feeling racy and feeling really, really quick. Mobin Khan, though, if he can drive a really wide race car, he may be able to hold off the challenge, as 18.5 minutes left to go, and if he can put on a defensive masterclass and Vigo just trips up a little bit heading through the bus stop chicanes, it may be his race to lose. But side-by-side racing, heading off into one, Vigo really feeling aggressive.
Yeah, looking for the outside line. Not going to be able to loop it around there. Khan having to defend, though. Maybe even down into the international horseshoe. He'll have no defensive line, but there's no attacking line being thrown in the end. And Miguel Vigo in the final 18 minutes of this race. Evan Onofra finds himself in P7. Of course, he was outside the top 10 for a time, but he's fought his way back. We may even see him on the permanent part of the tower in the not-too-distant future, albeit he's 10 seconds down on that top 6. Vigo getting close, not quite close enough to make a move onto Mobin Khan into the Western Horseshoe, and they will stay in first and second. Next opportunity that the number 62 is going to have will be the Le Mans chicane. He'd be hard-pressed to make a move there. I think battle's going to recommence at turn number 1. Hey, Ron?
Yeah, potentially. I will say, though, I think I saw Mobin Khan overshoot and miss the apex, hang off to the kink at turn number 5 a couple of moments ago. That's part of the reason why they were oh so close to the braking zone of 6. But here we go. Let's see if Vigo is going to take that run. You can see Khan gonna block him off on the outside. Heading off into the bus stop. That is not a smart section to try and go for a move. Doubly so considering you got this long, flat-out blast that immediately follows him. If you're Vigo at this point in time, battling hard with Mobin Khan, I think that pressure is really starting to get to Khan in that number 64 car. So I think if you are your pole sitter of Miguel Vigo, you may just want to keep applying that pressure and force him into a mistake, because he can get the move done, as he may try and go for splitting the traffic difference. Look at that. Khan running off into the apron. Vigo attempting the high line, heading off into turn number 1. They're still got to stay line of stern, but Khan, I feel like the pressure is really starting to get to the driver of the number 64 car, because that was gutsy dealing with that lap traffic.
I think he was slightly concerned about going to the high line there, because there was definitely a risk that the number 62 would have been slightly alongside, and there would have been rear end to front end contact there. So maybe the smart move to go to the inside line, regardless, they've negotiated their way past the traffic and they can continue battle again. The only issue is the traffic never is going to end with the GT4s, and they've got another car that they're going to have to negotiate their way through around the Western Horseshoe. Maybe have to make a bit of a send in towards turns 6 and 7. Let's see Mobin Khan. He'll easily get it done, as will Vigo, on their way in towards the last meaningful braking zone of the lap before we get into turn 1, and they'll make their way back onto the oval in the same order as they left it. So still half a second between Khan and Vigo. You just feel like this battle's going to have to explode at some point. And meanwhile, I was just about going to mention there's Aiden Young, Justin Rame. There's 5/10 in the lead for the LMP3s, 1/10 in the GT4s, and Aiden Young hanging on for dear life at the moment.
Yeah, he is having to drive the widest Mercedes GT4 car ever created by man. The real question is, though, will he be able to hold on? There's only so much defending you can do around a racetrack like this, where you've got those long, flat-out blasts making up a vast majority of the 2.5-mile tri-oval here with this road course configuration. So there's only so much that a driver like Aiden Young can do before Justin Rem is just going to have the speed advantage, heading off through some of the flat-out blast around this track. As back up the front, Mobin Khan and Vigo going side by side through turn number 1. Vigo trying to try the attempted overtake around the outside into turn number 1, but this fight is really starting to heat up.
Yeah, it really is good to see that these two are going to keep it going. Mobin Khan, though, defending the inside line. He'll be able to keep himself in the lead with only 15 minutes on the clock. Now, still a fair chunk of time left in this race. 8, 9, maybe more attempts down at turn 1 for Miguel Vigo to get this position his, or make it his, I should say. Get himself to the top step of the podium for what would be an absolutely stellar win from pole position in this race. Mobin Khan, of course, got pole position, wasn't able to convert it last week, trying to get his first win of the season here at Daytona, and the two of them going to scare the GT4 off the racing line just a little bit and give themselves a little bit more room as they make their way back onto the banking. 40 minutes to go. 0.2 of a second is the LMP3 gap. 0.3 of a second is the leading gap in the GT4s. I feel like we're at the back end of 2024 once again here on, and we may even see side by side down in towards the Le Mans chicane.
Looks like they're going to stay single file for now, but with some more GT4 traffic to deal with, and the fact we only have about 13 and a half minutes left to go in this race, this battle is really going to get intense. Mobin Khan has been feeling the pressure from Vigo. Vigo slowly reeling in that gap, closing. Now below a 10th. Is this going to be the shot that Vigo takes, pulling out to try and get that move done around the outside, coming off the high banks into the tri-oval? Let's see if this attempted overtake from the number 62 is finally going to stick.
Yeah, Vigo hoping to get this one done, just hoping to put Mobin Khan into his rear-view mirror, but Khan is staying very much firm on the inside. What a defensive move that is from Mobin Khan to keep himself in the lead. Made sure that Miguel Vigo had nowhere else to go other than getting out of the way. Miguel Vigo around the outside this time. Can he get it done? Will Mobin Khan defend again? The International Horseshoe has been kind for the 64 so far, and it is kind once again, but the rate of attacks is getting turned up a notch by the 62, and you find it hard to see how Mobin Khan can keep him behind right to the end of the race.
As much as I've been saying that Mobin Khan has been feeling the pressure, he's been dealing with it exceedingly well, but look at that, the massive Hornet's Nest of GT4 cars that they've got to deal with right now. This is going to throw a big wrench in the works. Mobin Khan going to have to execute these attempted overtakes on the GT4s as flawlessly as he possibly can. Don't get held up at all, otherwise Miguel Vigo in that number 62 car is going to pounce at the closest opportunity that he can find himself reaching. Look at more cars getting their doors blown off by these LMP3 runners. This is going to be sketchy, though, heading off into the bus stop. They're both going to have to clear them. They both clear that. Aston Martin heading off into the long chicane. However, these drivers getting close, getting racy. Vigo has been battling hard. He's been trying to go for the same move the past couple of laps. I feel like the around the outside overtake off into turn number 1 just has not been successful. So unless he has a massive amount of momentum, pulling out a little bit earlier than he did 1 lap ago, but he needs to get this done with authority because the past few laps just has not worked out for Vigo.
Sideline for Mobin Khan. Vigo officially has the lead as they cross the start-finish line, but it will be the inside line favouring the number 64. He'll be able to control it with the help of
nearly coming to blows.
Yeah, the up and under nearly working for Miguel Vigo, but as it is, Mobin Khan will stay where he is and flashing the lights frantically to try and get everybody in front of him to move out of the way. He suddenly found himself in rush hour traffic into the International Horseshoe, not exactly where he wants to be. But can Vigo use this to his advantage, or can Khan try and slither away and give himself a little bit of a gap now?
Oh, and you can see that sketchy and dangerous moment. These drivers still having to deal with the GT4 traffic, and Miguel Vigo making contact there with the number 15 of Ken Copeland. Mega sideways, slideways through turn number 6. That's going to lose out a little bit of time for Vigo. Still very close, and they may be side by side on quarter exit, having to deal with some LMP3 traffic, my apologies, and GT4 traffic. Mobin Khan, as much as it looked like he had slipped away as Vigo had that moment with the wrong stuff, number 15 Mercedes heading off through turn number 6. These two close yet again, dealing with that LMP3 traffic. Still, I think they found themselves in a good cushion yet again here, Dara. But as they've nearly come to blows twice coming out of turn number 1 as they've went side by side. We've actually got 2 battles in both of the classes, as we may have a fight in GT4 with Justin Rem trying to find any way in the book to get past Aiden Young for the lead in that class.
I don't quite know, Ron, if I'm honest, how we're going to get through 10 more minutes of this intense racing action, but we're going to have to, because Mobican and Miguel Vigo aren't going to leave each other alone, nor are Aiden Young and Justin Rain. Vigo waiting for a little bit longer to pull out of that slipstream. The outside line is his once again. Is he ever going to be able to have the inside line, or is he going to have to time and time again try and find a differing line? He's trying to go the long way around the outside, using all of the track and more. Can Khan defend it this time? I'm not sure he can. Vigo has the advantage and the inside line of the horseshoe, but not a good run through turn 3. He has the inside line at the horseshoe. That'll be where he controls it. And finally, Miguel Vigo retakes the lead of the Daytona race here for round number 2 of the season. Mobican trying to come back at him through the dogleg as they run their way through. Is it the inside line? No, it's the outside line for Mobican in towards the second of the 2 horseshoes, darking and diving left and right. But the 64 has to be quelled by the 62, and Miguel Vigo has the lead. Can he control it for the final 9 minutes?
That was incredible battling at the start of this lap. I still don't think it's over here, Dara, because Mobican, he now knows the weaknesses of Vigo. He nearly tried to go for about 4 straight moves heading through the infield section a couple of moments ago, and he's still got 8 and some change left to go in this race. Over 8 minutes left on the clock for Vigo to try and hold on, but over 8 minutes left on the clock for Mobican to get that move back done, to slip his way back into the lead of this race. However, they've been battling hard, they've been dicing, and it has been very, very sketchy. There's been multiple points at times where I fully expected these two to go off the racetrack in a cloud of dust, grass, and steam, but they haven't done it yet. Keyword being yet. Look at Adam Brockway. He won at Watkins Glen 1 week ago. He's running 3rd at the moment in the number 42 car, but if these two leading an LMP3 come to blows, he would be the one in the catbird seat to be able to inherit the victory. He's about 7 seconds back. That's the only way he's going to get involved in this, but look at that, Khan going for the dive.
And Khan's got the move back, searching for a second career PRL win, and he is not going to give this one up without laying down every single trick in the book. Inside line of the International Horseshoe will favour the 64, and will the GT4 traffic help him out somewhat? It's the 312 who's of Arnaud Jeunesse, would you believe, P3 man in the GT4s, who's going to help Mobican get himself back to the lead. And as they go through the dogleg, no room at the end for Miguel Vigo, and he has to return to P2. 7.5 minutes left in this one though, and these guys are going at it hammer and tong. It's just going to run to the end. Surely time on every single lap is going to be the pressure point.
I can't even imagine how the run is going to be coming to the checkered flag, Dara. I am fully expecting a photo finish between these two racers. They've been side by side heading through the tri-oval for the past, God, how many laps at this point? We'll just say 5. It's probably a little bit more than that, though. These racers have been battling as hard as they possibly can for a decent chunk of the second set, and they'll still be battling hard. Look at that gap dipping below 1/10 of a second, heading off through the braking zone into the Le Mans chicane. These two racers giving us a really good fight to keep our eyes on. However, one thing that I am keeping my eyes on, as these drivers certainly will be, is the fact that they are slowly but surely approaching the leaders in the GT4 category. As much as we've been talking about the GT4 traffic affecting the LMP3s, we got to talk about the other end of the spectrum. We got both of our class battles in the same camera shot. These two may be side by side, as the 2 in LMP3 may go side by side off into turn number 1. This is going to be sketchy. I don't have a good feeling about this at all. Very sketchy off into turn number 1. They deal with them successfully. I'm not sure how they manage it there, Dara, but close quarters racing between all of these drivers. The shoe on the other foot as the LMP3 is affecting the GT4 battles now.
Yeah, they just about made it through without too much, without any collision, mind you. Great to see the two leading battles cross over. I do think it's almost a funny statement to make that the amount of race wins in the PRL between the two fighting for a win in the LMP3s is 1 at the moment, and the current race wins for the two fighting in the GT4s, it's 42. I mean, it really is chalk and cheese. It's incredible, the difference, but the quality is still the same. Khan and Vigo clearly have the 1 win. They are going at it hammer and tong. Vigo got his first pole tonight. Can he get his first win as well? Khan got his 1 win last season in the LMP3 GT4 Challenge, looking for his first in 2025 and his 2nd overall. Maybe a move into the Le Mans chicane. We haven't seen it attempted here by Miguel Vigo, but he's going to put Mobican offline, and is that going to help him all the way to the run towards turn number 1?
Yeah, just trying to set your competitors up for a terrible run heading through the bus stop chicane could be oh so vital come time for the end of this race. Even a slowdown, that could be a game changer for one of these racers. One of them picks up a slowdown, and in the final 5-ish minutes of this race, you're going to see that gap balloon. They've been flawless, though, heading their way through that Le Mans chicane lap after lap, race after race, battle after battle. It's been oh so close between these drivers. It's still going to be close yet again, heading off through turn number 1. Vigo trying to go for the move around the outside of Mobin Khan. Khan, of course, disappointed as to how things went at Watkins Glen 1 week ago, but he's trying to fight back hard. But look at Vigo trying to get that move done around the outside into turn number 4. Not close enough, but maybe gonna try and do to Khan what Khan nearly did to him earlier on and try and get the move done on corner exit. Not close enough, not focusing on that exit as much as side-by-side battling through the infield section may be fun to see. It's not going to help these racers out at all. They're going to single file out heading through turn at number 6, but we're coming to the final few laps of this race, Dara, and with how hard these two have been battling, I have a feeling the elbows are going to get broken out soon.
Well, it's a shame that Adam Brockway hasn't been able to catch up to the back of this battle. Still, that gap is 8 seconds between himself and the leader. It would have been incredible to see the front three finding it out right all the way to the end. Also, a bit of a shout out to Aaron Myers. Of course, he started the race down in P12, knew he had to recover some of the positions, and he's in P5 now, very much firmly in a battle for P4 with Chris Schumrecker. We may not get a chance to speak to him if he doesn't get onto the podium, but definitely a fantastic drive from him all the way through the field and being hailed by Jeff Calfol as it should be in the YouTube chat. They'll come around once again to complete what should be not the penultimate lap, but we should have 2 more after this one, which means we've got 2 more trips to turn number 1. Miguel Vigo, inside, outside. He's been outside every single time because Mobin Khan's made sure to defend the inside line when he's been ahead, and it's going to be rinse and repeat. Outside line for the 62, inside line for the 64. Mobin Khan has been able to defend time and time again. Vigo got the better of him once. Can he make it a second time? It's going to be close though on the exit as they work their way towards the International Horseshoe. Inside line it'll be for Miguel Vigo. He should be the one to be able to control the line, and he'll be the one to control the lead.
Yeah, that nearly ended a disaster between those two. It was a matter of inches, millimeters even, between those two racers coming out of turn number 1 through the chicane of 2 and 3. However, speaking of 2 and 3, these two have not a lot of time left to go. It's not even 3 laps. They're probably coming to the white flag this time by here, Dara, and it is going to be a bare-knuckle fist fight coming to the end of this race. We've got battles all up and down this grid in the LMP3s. It is a dogfight between these two. Even with how hard they've been battling, they've allowed that gap between themselves and Adam Brockway to actually expand now north of 8 seconds. So really speaking volumes about how these two have been battling. They've been going at it really, really hard, but they haven't been dragging down each other like they're dragging an anchor through asphalt. They've just been running this race very methodically, but very, very aggressively as well. But there's not a lot of time left to go. They're coming the white flag this time by here, Dara, and I'm curious. One of these drivers is going to make it to the white, but I'm curious as to whether or not that same driver is going to be the one making it to the checkered flag first, as we're going to take a look at a replay of some battling in the GT4s heading off through turn number 1. A contact being made. That's a big spin for Gabriel Gutierrez in the 424 car, but never mind that. Here in the LMP3s, we've got one hell of a battle coming to the checkered flag.
Yeah, one more lap then. Mobin Khan outside line. It's last chance saloon for the number 64 car. Can he hook it around the outside? The answer is no. I think really now his final hope is that he gets enough of a run out of the Le Mans chicane that he's able to pull alongside and ahead before they get to the checkered flag. No move going on into the International Horseshoe. But Ron, how would you play this? If you're Mobin Khan right now, is that all the options you got left on the table, quite frankly?
At this point, I would have to see how this LMP3 traffic encounter deals with heading off into the second horseshoe of turn number 6. But if you are Mobin Khan, if I were Mobin Khan, I would really focus on that run coming out of the Le Mans chicane and having a brilliant, a masterful, a mega run coming out of that and on to NASCAR 3 and 4. Because it is there is no way to defend a run coming out of that section, because if you time it to perfection, you're going to be side by side with your competitor coming to take the checkered flag. A photo finish is something I predicted about 10 minutes ago on this broadcast, and now that we have that checkered flag coming up for these drivers and coming up for us on this broadcast, I think if you're Mope and Con, you need to get some clear air, get the grip, and get the run heading through this section. Maybe apply some pressure to Vigo so he can pick up a slowdown, but either way, this is going to be a dogfight coming to the checkered flag. Let's see if Khan has made the run or if Vigo's going to hold on.
Yeah, Khan is 4/10 back. It's going to be a long, long way from there. The time has ticked down to 0. We've had 1 hour's worth of racing here at Daytona to kick off the week in the PRL. Vigo looks like he's just going to about have enough. Khan is gaining. It's not going to be enough. And around the final corner they come. Miguel Vigo from pole to victory lane. The 62 takes his first ever PRL win. And in such style as the 1 hour of the LMP3 GT4 challenge on a Monday night.
Here we go.
The PRL. In the GT4s, it's Aiden Young and Justin Rame. They're nearly going to be going side by side up towards the line. Don't be surprised if you see a photo finish here. Justin Rame looking for win number 24 in the PRL. Aiden Young looking for win number 20. These two titans of the GT4 class over the last couple of years here in the PRL. Can Justin Rame get close enough? He's far closer than Mobin Khan was on the back of Miguel Vigo, but the gaining is slow. The gaining is so slow. He's just about going to get a bit of overlap. Is he going to have enough overlap to get in front? I don't think he will. And across the line they come. 54 thousandths of a second. A flash of the lights, I'm thinking. Almost congratulations to Aiden Young in that titanic battle between himself and Justin Rame. Aaron Myers, is he going to be able to snatch this against Chris Schmecker? I think he has, you know. Oh, no, just about. Oh, has he? The timing tower switching around after the checkered flag. Aaron Myers, by 5 thousandths of a second, gets P4 on.
Holy cow, Aaron Myers timing that run to absolute perfection. What's that? According to our tower, that is 5 thousandths of a second. Am I reading that properly? Am I doing the math right in my head? Either way, after an hour of racing, only in multi-class sports car racing will you see an hour-long race get decided by a matter of tenths, a matter of hundredths, and a matter of thousandths of a second coming to take the checkered flag. That was some fantastic battling we had in both of our classes right to the line. I think if Justin Rem had even 1 more mile an hour to his back coming out of that Le Mans chicane, that would have been his race. But Aiden Young, credit where credit's due to the driver of the 427 car. He was dominant in the early stages, maintaining that gap to about a second and a half. Then it went down and we were thinking, yeah, he's got to be feeling the burn. He's got to be feeling the pressure. Let's see if he snaps. He did not crack under pressure. He just executed the end of that race flawlessly. If he made a tiny little mistake, even if he missed one of the apex curves heading through the Le Mans chicane by a matter of inches, that could have made the difference, because that is practically no time at all. Doubly so after a 1 hour race. Fantastic stuff.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to catch my breath after that one. Incredible ending to an incredible 35 laps here at Daytona. What a way to kick off the week here in the PRL. Miguel Vigo, though, is your race winner in the 62. Mobin Khan coming up just short in the 64. He got 3rd last week, got 2nd this week. Well, what does that say about what could happen for him in 7 days' time? Adam Brockway won last time out at Watkins Glen, but should be able to maintain the championship lead by picking up a P3 here at Daytona. Zach Hebert was 4th ahead of Eric Leroy in 5th. Big gap down there between those two. Kwok Nguyen with a good P6 ahead of Carter James after his escapades, finished in 7th. David Stevenson, Victor Couto, and Chad Nobles rounding out our top 10. Dakiel Rodriguez and Jacob Van Spania were a lap down along with Faison and Sheikh. Evan Offrope found himself 4 laps down with Pineda and Angelo 5, and JP Alfonso, after his good start in the race, 17th and last, 6 laps down. In the GT4s, Aiden Young led the field just about by less than a blink of an eye. 500ths of a second behind it was Justin Rame. Arnaud Jeunesse, another great performance from him. 4th last week, 3rd this week. He really is staking his claim to be in the championship picture. Aaron Myers recovered from 12th to 4th in one of the drives of the day. Chris Schmecker just missing out on the top 4 by 5 thousandths of a second after those two crossed the line pretty much dead level. Roman Foe and Eric Fenson, the first of the McLarens, with Robert Schlinkler, the top 3 McLarens in 6th, 7th and 8th. and we rounded out our top 10. Ayrton Williams, I should say, Jeremy Manella in 11th and 12th. Kurt Ham and Justin Bracken in 13th, 14th, with Roy Brown rounding out the top 15. It was Mike Gallant, Kate Smith and Joseph Maley on the lead lap, with Caelan Tobin and Jeremy Rogers just the one lap down. Joining them a lap down, Keith Powell, Parker Muirhead and Stephen Tang, the top 23 in the GT4s. Matthew Wyckoff with 2 laps down. Menzes with 6 down, with Faraoni in 26th, 7 laps down. Jeff Rosenberger, Joseph Daly, Travis Pruitt, 27th, 8th and 9th were a long way down in the end. And after quite an incredible evening worth of racing, delighted to say that we are able to be joined by Miguel Vigo now. Miguel, welcome in. What a race that was. Talk us through that Titanic battle.
Yeah, that was pretty crazy. The main goal for me, at least, was to try and save fuel, because usually the person in front usually wastes more fuel. So I knew Melbourne was saving fuel, and once I kind of knew that, I just wanted both of us to just kind of take off, because both cars are faster than one. So once we started capping the field, I figured we would kind of start battling right there after the pit stop. So I was kind of lucky enough to be able to make up that 1 second gap after the stop, just because I got held up in traffic. So he played a really good strategy. His car was very well set up for the corner, so I did have a little bit of trouble trying to make the pass until it finally stuck. So,
and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe this is your first PRL race win. I mean, how much does that mean to you?
Oh, actually, I'm pretty sure I've done PRL before. I don't think this is my first win with PRL, but I mean, it's been a while, so it's good to kind of be back on the podium again.
Either way, I've been looking down the order. Your name may be there. There's so many names on the list, it's difficult to pick out all of them. But Miguel, congratulations, well done, and hopefully we'll be seeing you in a championship contention frame next week in 7 days' time.
Yeah, thanks a lot, guys. Always great to have you guys broadcast, and I hope the spectators enjoyed that battle with Mobin. It was great, and I had a lot of fun.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks, Miguel. And congratulations again. We'll speak to you next week, hopefully.
Yep. All right, take care.
Miguel Vigo there, race winner in our LMP3s, and he was run pretty close to the end there, Ron. And his P2 challenger, Mobin Carney's with you now.
Yeah, Mobin's now joining us here in the commentary booth. Mobin, that looked like a fantastic fight all throughout that second stint. Talk us through that action-packed race from your perspective here at Daytona.
Yeah, man, coming into this race, we spent all week trying to figure out a setup for this track and really couldn't crack the code. It looked like Gio was leading the pace all week in the roar, the officials, and even in the race, Miguel did a great job putting it on pole, but I was able to get right behind him. I made a mistake in Q that was costly, but we were able to stay nose to tail for a good part of the race, and then I knew after pits it was going to be elbows out. And it's really nice to be able to race somebody like Miguel wheel really hard and get away with some close calls there. It was really exciting, a little bit heartbreaking. I misjudged the gap at the final bus stop when we were behind that GT4. Had I been a bit closer, I think I could have got him on the run to the line, but that's a mistake I won't make the next time.
Well, it was still a fantastically executed drive from you all throughout this 1 hour race that we just saw here at Daytona. I think you're building to a claim in the early stages of this season. Third at Watkins Glen, second here at Daytona. Setting yourself up really well for the next race at Mugello. Are you going to get that 3-2-1 and take your first win of the season at the third race at Mugello? What are your thoughts heading into that one in 1 week's time?
Yeah, Mugello is going to be tricky. It's a brand new track that I'll learn, and it's supposedly going to rain. So 2 challenges there, but I look forward to that challenge, and I'd like to get a win there. That's always the goal when I enter these races. So let's see what we can cook.
Well, hoping that all you drivers are going to be cooking up some really good battles, running in the rain, singing in the rain at Mugello in 1 week's time. But Mobican, thank you so much for joining us in the commentary booth, and well done on that fantastic battle, and well done on a P2 result here at Daytona. Thank you for joining us.
I appreciate it. I'd just like to give a shout out to my team Satellite Racing and Adam Crane for his continued support in our LMP3 program, as well as Dr. Dabber, Ellis Engineering, Moradnis, Nemesis Lab, and RaceSpot and PRL for putting on a great race for the Monday Night League and doing some great work for the sim racing community. Thank you guys for taking time to put on an awesome broadcast.
And thank you for the kind words there as well, Mobin. Well done on the podium, and excited to see you back out on the racetrack for the rest of the season, man. Thank you for joining us.
Look forward to it. Cheers, guys.
Khan there. Always great to have a more than prepared driver coming into an interview, isn't it? And congratulations to him on the P2. Finally, it seems, we're going to be able to speak to our race winner in the GT4s. And Aiden Young, welcome in. First win of 2025. Took me maybe a week longer than you would have liked, but you're back on the top step.
I'm out of breath after that race. Justin there pushed me from the middle of the race all the way to the very end. First stint for me was pretty strong, but then once Justin caught me, I was like, oh boy, here we go, race is on from now on. I was like, I gotta be on point or this man's gonna snatch up my victory from me. So props to Justin. He's a really fast driver. I think he said he's sick, unfortunately, so obviously get better soon. Justin, I need to race you when you're fully good, we gotta have that bit of a better battle. Because that'd be fun. But to beat a driver like Justin, he's that high caliber, obviously Grid and Go esports driver. That's pretty big backing there, so it definitely feels real good. It gives me a bit of a confidence boost. But if he wasn't as good of a driver as he is, and I wasn't as confident racing him as I just was, then the battle most likely wouldn't have been as good. So just big hats off to him.
I mean, for you, in terms of those kind of milestone victories, don't know if you know this, according to the documents that we've got, according to the all-time stats in the PRL, that is your 20th PRL race win, and for reference, Justin has 23, so you're now alone in 13th place on that all-time wins list. I mean, how pleased are you by that, firstly, and secondly, how confident are you that you can chase down Justin this season?
Well, I certainly have the biggest smile on my face right now. Trying too hard not to laugh just from the joy. I mean, I pretty much lost my voice going across the finish. I mean, I don't know how much I was screaming. I probably woke up my grandma. So, oh boy, it's not gonna go over well. But yeah, I mean, hopefully I can end up matching Justin on wins. That'd be pretty special. But I have a feeling this season, throughout the rest of the season, it might be kind of a change back and forth for the title fight between me, Justin, Aaron, and if Garrett can get back and do the entirety of the season, then it'll probably be a battle between us four, which will be very exciting. But I'll keep putting in the work, and then hopefully by the end can get that 4th championship for myself, but also my first championship with WSR by Buck Kicker.
A quick word for next week, Mugello in the rain. You looking forward to that one?
It's in the wet.
That's what we've heard. I will have to double check that one, but there may be a little bit of precipitation. But if there is or isn't Mugello, quick word on that circuit.
I'm not gonna lie. I was very surprised when you told me that. Here I was saying, oh, it'll be dry. I'll probably have to put in a lot more prep than what I normally would for Mugello. And then I hear wet, and I'm like, ooh, rain, Mercedes, fun.
Yeah, I've just double checked. 89% chance of rain, so I think we will see quite a bit of precipitation on the racetrack next week. But Aiden, congratulations again. Delight to see you back on the top step, back into the championship lead, and we may speak to you again in 7 days' time. Hope you enjoy your Daytona 24 this weekend.
Thank you. I definitely will, and I'll see you guys next week.
Young there, almost of course, pretty much a weekly interview from him after, once again, another great result in his championship aspirations and looking for 3 in a row. Finally, just about jumping into the box, we've got Arno Genest, and Ron, he joins you now.
Yeah, Arno now joining us here in the commentary booth. And now, man, that looked like a really hard-fought fight for all of you racers in that GT4 class. Start this race second in the GT4s. You end up on the podium. So talk us through a really hard-fought race here at Daytona.
Yeah, it was, of course, all about the draft term and staying with Aiden. And fuel save, essentially. I mean, I knew Aiden had the pace. had the fuel save, kind of lost touch with him on lap 10, I think, and I felt like I had better chances. Let him, Justin, pass me so I could get his draft, save more fuel. But turns out that these guys are amazing with the car, and so they pulled away after the pit cycle for I don't know, they put me in 4 or 5 seconds, so I kind of felt left behind, of course, and it was a lonely race after that. I mean, just managing traffic, making sure that I was not getting punted by the LMP3s, making no mistakes and bring the car home.
Well, thankfully for your sakes, you did not get hit by that LMP3 chrome horn and was able to make it to the checkered flag in third, your first podium from this season, unless I'm very much mistaken. So well done in that regard. Have a much different challenge coming up at Mugello in 1 week's time. Some wet weather to deal with as well. So what are your thoughts heading into that wet and wild race in 1 week's time?
It's going to be a lot different. And of course, I'm not gonna have as much practice as this week, since my team and I are racing in the Daytona 24. So we're gonna just practice maybe on next Sunday, and see what happens. I mean, on the wets, it's very, very different. It's more or less staying alive instead of being fast. So yeah, we'll see what happens.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, I applied that same sort of mindset to whenever I had to do a school project back in my high school days. And I got to the other end of high school, so I'm sure that last-minute practice session will help out you and all the drivers who may decide to go for that Sunday evening practice session as well. But I know, thank you very much for joining us in the commentary booth, and well done on the podium, and excited to see you back out on the racetrack for the rest of the season.
Thank you, guys. Have a nice night.
On OGS there, rounding out our interviews this evening. Mind you, actually, quick look at the overall all-time standings tells me that that's his 95th top 10 in the PRL, so he's had more than his fair share of good performances. But that is where we will wrap up from Daytona. Ron, I don't really know where to start in wrapping this one up. Incredible race, incredible runs to the line. We didn't know where to look, didn't know who was going to win it right until the end.
Yeah, those finishes in both the LMP3s and GT4s were absolutely brilliant. Some great racing through and through, and amazing battles from start to finish. I'm really looking forward to Mugello, though. We've got some rain to deal with. There's just going to be so much that is relying on these drivers' minds come time for the next race of the season at Mugello. But this race at Daytona was absolutely brilliant. And what a way to kick off this week of Daytona International Speedway road course action. Dara, I'll pass it back off to you to bring us home.
Yeah, I mean, you can guess where we are tomorrow night in the GT3s. We're at Daytona. You can guess where we are on Thursday night in PRL. We're at Daytona. And of course, we will be at Daytona all week long here on RaceSpotTV. But in 7 days' time for the LMP3 GT4 Challenge, we will be in Mugello. Cannot wait for that one. Delighted that you've been able to join us. From myself, Darren Thacker, Ron Morns up in the commentary box alongside me, and from Hugo Lois in the broadcast booth. We thank you for joining us, and we hope to see you in 7 days' time when the series returns in a little bit of a sunnier Italy.